Today, I would love to share the game, rather, one of the greatest games in chess history. It is Paul Morphy versus Duke Karl and Count Isouard, 1858, Paris, France. It's called the Opera Game because they are playing this game in an opera house in Paris. So this is, according to chess.com, this is the second greatest game in chess history. As you know, Paul Morphy is considered one of the greatest chess players that never became an official world chess champion. During in the 1800s, he is the strongest chess player according to chess history because of his tactics combinations and sacrifices. He is also he also influenced Bobby Fischer, and Bobby Fischer like Paul Morphy, and Paul Morphy is playing with the white pieces. So let's proceed. So in this game, Paul Morphy played pawn to e4. His opponents respond with pawn to e5. And in this position, Morphy responded with knight to f3, pressuring this pawn on e5. So his opponent responded with pawn to d6. This is called the Philidor defense. And in this position, Morphy played pawn to d4, which is a strong move, attacking this pawn on e5, pressuring it with the knight and the pawn. And in this position, his opponents made a huge mistake early in this game. So they played bishop to g4, which is, according to Bobby Fischer, it's already a losing move. Fischer disproved this move. Fischer said that this is a weak move. So why is it a weak move? And when you think about it, this bishop is attacking this knight on f3, pinning the queen. So why is it a weak move? Because in this position, Paul Morphy played the best move, which is d4 takes e5. And what should be the best move by black? According to the engine, it should be pawn e5 takes pawn d4. And let's say nf3 takes the pawn on d4, and let's say he develops his knight on f3, and it's just normal development, and so far, according to the engine, this is just 0.3 in white. So taking this pawn is the best move. But unfortunately, they played bg4 or bishop g4. So Morphy took this pawn on e5 with a pawn on d4. And his opponents played bishop takes knight on f3. And in this position, Morphy played the best move, which is queen takes bishop on f3. So as you can see, this queen is already pressuring this pawn on f7, and we know that the pawn on f7 is weak. That's why in this position, his opponent take this pawn on e5 with his pawn on d6. In this position, Morphy played the best move, which is bishop to c4, threatening checkmate. And according to the engine, Morphy could have played queen to b3, attacking this pawn. But for me personally, bishop c4 is the best move because this is threatening checkmate in one. And of course, his opponents have to defend mate in one. So he played knight to f6. So there's no more mate because this pawn is now covered by the knight on f6. In this position, Morphy played the best move once again, which is queen to b3, pressuring this pawn on f7. So this pawn is only guarded by the black king. Therefore, Karl and his teammate has to defend this pawn. So they move the best move according to the engine, which is queen to e7, defending. So now this pawn is guarded by the king and queen at the same time. In this position, Morphy played knight to c3. So I think Morphy is planning, he's just developing defending this pawn on e4, and maybe later in the game, maybe he would jump here on d5. But according to the engine, the best move is queen takes pawn b7. And in this position, the queen is threatening the rook. But in this position, the queen can counter this by giving a check to the white king. And let's say takes, and let's say this. So in this position, Morphy can still win the game. He still have an advantage. But let's go back to the game. So Morphy played knight to f3, which is according to the engine the second best move. In this position, his opponents played pawn c7 to pawn c6. So why is, according to the engine, this is the best move? Because this queen, which is pressuring this pawn on b7, is now defended by the queen on e7. Therefore, Morphy's queen cannot take this pawn anymore. So in this position, Morphy played bishop to g5. And as you can see in this position, Morphy is ready to castle. Morphy is ready to connect his rooks. And we know that in the basic of chess, developing your pieces, controlling the center, and castling and connecting your rooks is very, very important. At the same time, Morphy is pinning this knight to the queen. And at the same time, this is a bad position for black because he cannot develop this bishop on f8. And this knight is pinned to the queen. And so therefore this knight cannot move because Morphy's bishop can just take this queen. So in this position, and this is where the disaster happens for black. In this position, this is actually a blunder for black. So according to the engine, he could have just played queen to c7, just defending. And then let's say takes, and let's say Morphy castles. Then he can castle a queenside. So black is still worse in this position, but it's quite better than playing the pawn on from b7 to b5. So he is threatening Morphy's bishop. And in this position, Morphy played the best move, which is knight c3 takes pawn b5. So according to the engine, he should not take here. So the best move according to the engine is just developing your knight here on d7 or even threatening the knight with the pawn on a7 to a6 because he cannot move here, giving a fork because the queen is defending this square. But unfortunately, he took with the pawn on c6, takes knight on b5. And in this position, Morphy once again played the best move, which is bc4 takes b5, giving a check to the black king. Now, if you're black, what would you move in this position? So basically, all of us would surely play 100% knight d5, knight d8 to knight d7, defending or covering the check. Because let's say, for example, if the king moves here, then he is in trouble. The king would be exposed. So Morphy can castle, giving a check. This is very, very dangerous for black. So the best position is just blocking the check with the knight. And in this position, Morphy played queenside castle. Look at the position of Paul Morphy. Every piece is developed. King is safe. Rooks are connected. Basic principles of chess being applied in this game. So still up to date in 2025, the basic principles are very, very, very important. So now Morphy is pressuring this knight with his rook on d1. At the same time, it's still pinned with the bishop on b5. In this position, black played rook to d8, defending. So now, if you are Morphy, what would you play in this position? So in this position, Paul Morphy played rook takes knight on d7. So Morphy did not took with the bishop because he wants to use this bishop controlling this diagonal. And according to the engine, this is the best move because not only it pressures, and this is a discovery to the king, it also attacks the queen. And if the queen takes this, Morphy would just take with his bishop. In this position, he took with the rook. So rd8 takes rd7. And in this position, Morphy played rh1 to rd1. Now, the rook cannot take this rook because it is pinned. That's why Morphy did not take with the bishop earlier. So the rook cannot take this rook on d1. Now, his opponent played queen to e6. He wants to exchange queens with Morphy and to develop his black bishop. So you see Morphy's opponent's pieces, his rook on h8, the rook on h8, and the bishop on f8 are not developed. So I think that's the reason why they move the queen from e7 to e8 to exchange queens and to develop the bishop somehow on this diagonal. Unfortunately, this is a mistake. According to the engine, they should have just played queen to d6. And this is the only best move in the position, sadly. And I truly believe Morphy would just take this queen, takes, and let's say take, take. And in this position, Morphy is still winning. So we can just take this rook is pinned with the bishop. With the bishop, even if this Morphy would still win this position. So let's go back. This is what they played. Queen to e6, and in this position, Morphy played bishop takes rook on d7, giving a check to the black king. And of course, the king cannot take the bishop because this bishop is defended by the rook. So another principle from Paul Morphy: when we attack, make sure that one of our piece is being defended by another piece. In this position, Morphy's opponent played knight takes bishop on d7. And of course, you cannot move, the king cannot move here or here. The king will be exposed. So, of course, the queen cannot take here because Morphy would just take the queen with his rook for sure. So, the best move is just taking this bishop with the knight. And in this position, I'll give you 3 seconds to find the best move for Paul Morphy. Did you find it? In this position, Paul Morphy played queen to b8, giving a check to the king on e8. And this is an amazing sacrifice by the great Paul Morphy. Why? Because this is a forcing move. The king cannot go here and here because this bishop is controlling this square and this square, and the queen is controlling this rank. This is a forcing move. The king is being checked and he has no choice but to take Morphy's queen with his knight, and in this position finish the move for Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy played rd1 to rd8, checkmate. And of course, the king cannot go anywhere. This is GG for the black, and well done, well played by Paul Morphy. So Paul Morphy is one of the greatest chess players according to grandmasters. And this game is, again, the second greatest chess game according to chess.com. So you might want to study Morphy's games because even though he existed in the 1800s, there are still principles that can be applied today. And this game shows that. Paul Morphy played carefully. Paul Morphy played the best moves with combinations, sacrifices, and tactics. And he developed his pieces. He controlled the center. He castled. He connected his rooks. And in this game, Morphy outplayed his opponents. And he won. And again, I would really suggest for you to check Paul Morphy. And I just want to introduce myself. And this is the end of the video. I am Coach Alec Villarreal from the Philippines. This is my first time making chess videos, so bear with me. So I would love to learn and grow. Comment on the comment section if you want to share your ideas, ways to improve. This is my first time. I'm excited, and my dream is to become a chess master, to compete in tournaments. And currently, I am teaching chess here in the Philippines. I teach beginners from 5 to 10 years old. I am currently working as a teacher and at the same time part-time chess coach here in the Philippines. So I would appreciate your support. So thank you for watching my video, and I hope that you would subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much. God bless.